Okay, welcome, Dr. Lydia, today, and thank you so much for your time and for agreeing to give a commentary on the videos for the Being Anglican project on the section Anglican, Ecumenical, and Interfaith Relationships. Thank you also for consenting to use this video for the TIAC study materials. So thank you very much for that. So we'll begin with our first question. So could you please say something about yourself? Where do you live and work in the world? And what is your connection with Anglicanism?
Thank you very much, Dr. Muthuraj. And I'm so sorry that the connection is a bit poor, perhaps sometimes on my side. But I give consent for this video to be used in the Anglican Communion. My name is Rev Dr. Lydia Mwaniki, and I am a priest in the Anglican Church of Kenya, currently working for the All Africa Conference of Churches, AACC, which is the largest association of Protestants, Anglicans, Orthodox, and African instituted churches in 43 African countries. I am born and brought up in Kenya, in the rural central part of Kenya, but now I live and work in Nairobi. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lydia.
Maybe I also need to say that, maybe I also need to say that I'm the third generation of Christians, because my grandparents, my maternal grandparents, were the ones who received the missionaries when the missionaries came to their village in central part of Kenya, that is Kabare, in 1910. So my grandparents were the first generation, then my parents, and then I am the third generation of Christians, that is Anglicans.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Very good to know that. We'll move to the next question. How does your place, so that is your context or your own location there in Kenya, influence the way you view this topic, that is the Anglican, ecumenical, and interfaith relationships?
Thank you. That's an important question. As I have said, I am born and brought up in central Kenya, and now I live in Nairobi. And in both places, I live among, as I was growing up, I lived among people of different of course, religions, but of course the Muslims were very few, but Christians are many, but they belong to different denominations, and especially those who belong to African instituted churches. So I have learned to live in such a community, and we live together without really so much conflict. And especially because we used to draw water from the same river, whether we are Christians or, whether we are Christians or belonging to different denominations. And then we go to the same market, we buy from, we don't mind whether we are buying from a Christian or from a Muslim or from a person who is from a different denomination. we buy things in the market as they are. Again, now that I'm working with the All Africa Conference of Churches, which I have said is ecumenical, Protestants, Anglicans, Orthodox, African instituted churches together. And we also have an interfaith because we collaborate with other faiths and work very, very closely. So that is how my context influences the way I view the topic. Human beings, male and female, are created in the image and likeness of God. Therefore, we are all human and must relate from the point of view of our humanity, regardless of our differences in faith or denomination. Then cordial, ecumenical, and interfaith relations demonstrate that as human beings, we are different parts of the same body. Each member of the body is valuable and fulfills a different function. The value and beauty of the body is experienced both in its unity and diversity. It's important for Anglicans to embrace the beauty and value that comes with diversity. As interfaith and ecumenical, we are able to strengthen our voice when addressing issues affecting our communities and nations. Without loving people of other denominations and faiths, we cannot win them to Christ. As Anglicans, Jesus reached out to the Jews, Gentiles, and people of all social status. We have to begin our mission as Anglicans by loving other people. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's excellent. So thank you very much, for your reflection. Yeah, thank you. And now, just moving to the some of the video testimonies, from different parts of the world on this topic, Anglican, ecumenical, and interfaith relationships. So, thank you very much for spending your time and viewing those short videos. So, how do you see these video testimonies, and how do you think how far they confirm what you think about Anglican, ecumenical, and interfaith relationships?
When I began viewing the videos, I began with the first one, which is Jacob's from the Philippines. Perhaps before I read your email again to see that I should view from the fourth topic, but I got very good insights from Jacob, that being Anglican is being humane, reaching out to other people, and being able to work with the human society. And that is still applicable in section 4, the interfaith and ecumenical. Then I also learned from him that being Anglican is being incarnational. That is being able to use traditional symbols and instruments to express one's faith, for example, through liturgy, song, and dance. And that comes out clearly in African instituted churches, where they are very vibrant, they dance, they use those symbols to express their faith. So for me, and I think that's what Jacob is saying, is that being Anglican is not being uprooted from your culture, but you still must be able to balance between, being fully Anglican and being fully Christian. And being Anglican is also being able to bring people who are at the periphery to the center. For example, he talks about the Filipinos who are regarded as ignorant. By being Anglican, they were Anglicans were able, or Anglicanism was able to bring them to the mainstream. I think that was very powerful. Sorry, I didn't read about the others in that category, but I jumped to my category.
Mm.
And I have a few points.
Mm.
For example, from Lilian from Brazil, that being Anglican is being open-minded to learn from others. And, formal education opens one up to embrace ecumenism and interfaith relations. Lilian is open-minded as reflected in her field of study, in her PhD, as well as her upcoming book. In learning, the book is about learning from ancestry, and Lilian extends this teaching, about learning from others who are not from within your faith or denomination. She is teaching that at the university.
Thank you. We can continue. Do you think, how these videos actually challenge what you already think on the topic? So do you think in particularly they challenge, any of these videos challenge the way you think about the topic of Anglican, ecumenical and interfaith relationships?
What I found interesting is that a person can be born in a different faith and then change to becoming Anglican. And for me, because I've always been an Anglican, perhaps I've been biased that, people need to be Anglicans, but people can still be born in other faiths, and those faiths shape their thinking and also their faith. And then God can call them, to become Anglicans. And then they continue whatever they believed in earlier, or whatever their faith was earlier. It contributes to becoming even good Anglicans, because it's like Saul becoming Paul. And then we see how God used his past to improve, to work on the calling that God had given him. Yeah, so we can change from other faiths to Anglicans, and that helps us also to work with the people of other faiths and other denominations. Yeah.
Thank you. And what insights and questions, do these video testimonies, offer or raise, for students of Anglicanism? So the students of Anglicanism, what they can learn from these videos, and what kind of questions these videos raise for them in the light of the topic Anglican, ecumenical, and interfaith relationships.
Thank you. Now, the insights that the video testimonies offer to students of Anglicanism, I know the list is not exhaustive, but from the videos, there's a strong message that students, we need to embrace other faiths and other denominations. So that needs to embrace other faiths and other denominations. And then there is need to embrace the community where one is and collaborate with the religious groups that are there in order to meet community needs, because Anglicans cannot do it alone. Yeah. And for this, in this, I can add that in every community there are power structures. You find there are these traditional leaders, there are women leaders, men leaders, leaders of age groups. And if people want, if even Anglicans, let me say Anglicans, want to penetrate to do some activities there, or even to preach or to maybe to help with water or food or anything, they need to recognize that there are these power networks and which they cannot ignore. So it's important to embrace any community where somebody is serving, and to be able to work together with the religious groups and other groups that are there in order to meet community needs. Now, the other teaching is that even where Anglicans are a minority, they can still make a difference if their faith is expressed in service for all people. For example, like the case of Jerusalem. And also from the case of Jerusalem, I have learned that religion should be part of the solution, not part of the problem in the society. Then it is important to balance between being Christian and being cultural so that one does not lose his or her identity as a Christian, or even the cultural identity, although it's difficult to balance that. Now, what questions do the video testimonies raise for students of Anglicanism? First of all is, how does one reconcile drinking and church teachings, especially in some countries here in Africa, where to be a good Christian or a good Anglican, one should not drink beer or wine, given that some good Anglicans drink in other parts of the world. So how does one reconcile that? Because students, or even as Anglicans here, we are faced with the question of, Jesus turning water into wine and people drinking. Yet when the missionaries came here, they said we should not drink our local beer or wine, but they themselves were drinking while hiding. So how does one reconcile that? It's still a question. Then the other question is, how can Anglicanism thrive in difficult contexts of religious pluralism and religious or political conflict, such as Jerusalem? I was in Jerusalem, I think it was in 2019, and we were told that Christianity is only 2%. And in a situation where there is also conflict between different denominations and then different faiths, how can Anglicanism thrive in such a context? Then how does one balance between being fully Christian or Anglican and fully African? I think I've highlighted that earlier. So how does an Anglican determine, for example, which indigenous symbols to incorporate into worship and which ones should not be incorporated? Now, as I speak about these questions, in Kenya today, especially in the region where I'm coming from, in the central part of Kenya, there's a very strong move, to move back to the traditions. I haven't done a good research on that, so I don't know what these people want to continue with in Christianity and to live in the traditional culture. But unfortunately, there is a threat, it's a threat. That move backwards to the traditions is very unfavorable, especially for women, because they are emphasizing on female genital mutilation and subjection of women to men. Going back to the traditions, I think will not end up, people do not end up being very, very good Christians unless they critique some of what are called, they allow Christianity or the word of God to critique, they subject that to the word of God. So I think that would be my take, to be very critical of what traditions offer, and are they those that are called values in the tradition, are they liberating? How can they be reconciled with the word of God, or be subjected to the word of God? Because the word of God must have the upper hand. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. No, that's wonderful, and thank you for all your reflections and comment. So, do you? I mean, you have already given a lot of reflection and suggestions. But do you want to finally add any further suggestions to how Anglicans should be involved in building relationships ecumenically and interreligiously? Do you have any final thoughts and suggestions before we conclude?
Thank you. Yes, I just encourage Anglicans to seek opportunities for collaboration, especially in addressing contextual issues affecting the community, issues of gender-based violence, harmful cultural practices, offering humanitarian support. And just now, encouraging our communities to accept vaccination, COVID-19 vaccination, in order to curb the spread of the virus. So we need to collaborate with others in addressing the issues that are affecting us in our communities, because we are serving the same people within our communities. And then speaking with one voice, to speak to governments on issues affecting the nations, issues of peace, issues of like public debt, high cost of living, because those people are affected, those issues are affecting Christians, non-Christians, and everybody else in the nation, those who cannot even speak for themselves. When Christians and Muslims and other denominations and faiths speak with one voice, governments may tend to listen. For example, here in Kenya, government listens. So I just emphasizing the need for collaboration with others.
Yeah. Thank you. That's really powerful, and how these collaborations can help change the society, or working for a better society. So thank you very much. So thank you, Dr. Lydia, once again for your reflection and your time and what you have done today, and that's very helpful. And thank you very much for all that you have done for this project.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad to have been invited and to participate, and I hope those who hear me will benefit from some of the things I have said. I have also enjoyed listening and watching these videos, and I will continue with those that I have not watched from other sections. Yeah. Thank you very much.